Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining me. This is the Morning Market Review. My name is Russell Shaw. I'm a Senior Market Specialist at FXCM. My email address, rshaw@fxcm.com, and if anybody needs to contact me, please send an email to that address. Today is Tuesday, and it is the 9th of May. I'm just going to bring up our disclaimers. First will be the high-risk investment warning. Okay, thank you very much. And here's our market commentaries disclaimer. I'll keep this on screen for a few moments as well. Okay, and our references, Market Scope and Trading View. I think we'll spend most of our time today on Market Scope. I want to bring up the dollar. We've been looking at this in a fair amount of detail, and I want to continue examining this from a top-down approach. I think that if we look at the dollar first, it's effectively the first in a chain. So it's the first link, and everything ripples from the dollar. And it looks to me as if we have a right shoulder in motion here. It looks as if we've got the downwards momentum. I'm just taking note to see if the pattern completes, right? So we're looking from the top down. This is the wide angle. You can see that there does seem to be a certain amount of downward pressure on the greenback, peak, trough, lower peak, and the question is, are we getting the lower trough here? I just want to remind everyone what a head and shoulders is. Don't forget, it's effectively a change in trend. Markets don't move in a straight line; they zigzag. A higher trough followed by a higher peak is an uptrend. And then what tends to happen is we move from the higher trough, higher peaks to lower peak, lower trough. And that's what the head and shoulders is effectively telling us. It's telling us that there's a trend change or a potential trend change. You can see here is the head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We go back, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So it does seem to be a topping pattern, does seem to be weighing on the dollar. Now we go down to the US dollar daily chart. Where are we here? We're in zone 3. Okay, zone 3. So let's just put our zones in here. We've got zone 1. That's our bullish area between the upper blue, upper red. We've got zone 2. That's our neutral area between the two blue bands. And we've got zone 3. That's our bearish area. And you can see when we spend a fair amount of time in zone 3, there's downwards pressure. When we spend a fair amount of time in zone 1, there's upwards pressure. So we're in zone 3. We're in zone 3, and that seems to be synchronizing with the higher time frame, with that head and shoulders top, and now the zone 3. But now let's go even further down. Let's go into the hourly chart, and here's where it gets really interesting because we can use the hourly chart really for the we can try and time. Now what you can see is we've got the moving averages here. They're looking like they're about to cross down. Okay, looking like they're going to cross down. We've already got the stochastic crossing down. It's effectively a two trigger system. Trigger 1 would be the EMAs crossing down. We'll see that in the next sort of 12 minutes if we get a crossover. And the stochastic crossing down. Does that guarantee we're going to get the push to the downside? No, it doesn't. What we've got to get then is the stochastic moving towards the 20 minus areas, the lower quintile, and holding. If we get the, sorry, I just want to get a rectangle here. If we get the stochastic into the lower quintile, it tends to put pressure. It tends to put pressure on the dollar. Here we're in the lower quintile. Here's the swing down. Here we're in the lower quintile. Here's the swing down. So first things is the crossover, okay? Then the movement into the lower quintile. If we get that movement into the lower quintile, then there is a bearish momentum. There's no such thing as overbought or oversold on stochastic. I have read textbooks where they say that's the case. It's not the case. The mathematics doesn't make any provision for overbought, oversold. It makes provision for momentum, okay? Momentum is strong when it's in the upper quintile, and that momentum is strong to the upside. Momentum is strong to the downside when it's in the lower quintile. So what we've got here is a top-down analysis. We've got pressure on the weekly. It looks as if there's that topping pattern. We've got pressure on the daily. We're in that zone 3. And now it looks as if there is some sort of pressure to the downside on the hourly, but we've got to be patient. We've got to be patient. I don't know if there's going to be a crossover here. And even if there is a crossover, there has to be a momentum push to the downside. You'll see that when the EMAs develop angle and separation, when they moving to the downside. So it's very interesting position that the dollar is in here. Why is it an interesting position where the dollar is here? Because remember, this is the first link in that chain of causality. If we get the dollar moving, then it ripples along the chain. So what are the next links? Well, let's take a look at euro. Let's take a look at gold. Let's take a look at cable. Okay, let's take a look at euro first. Okay, just bear with me for a few moments. Similarly, we took a look at this yesterday. Higher trough, higher peak, a series of higher troughs, higher peaks. Here's that ledge that we spoke about yesterday. The ledge seems to be setting up for another attack to 110. This 110 is proving incredibly resilient. We just want to keep an eye on that. But if the dollar pushes down, I would expect euro US dollar to be supported to the upside. What's happening on the daily chart here? All right, we've slipped back into zone 2, but there's that squeeze happening here. So let's just reiterate what we're looking for here. It's a dual type of analysis. We go through to the US dollar. Okay. I'm not sure why these errors keep popping up. I'll just click through them. We want to see the US dollar stick in zone 3. We want to see if we get the crossover to the downside. If we do go through to the euro US dollar, then theoretically we should be getting an equal but opposite move, and we want to see here if we can reassert from zone 2 back into zone 1. And the way that we can try and time that is we can take a look and see if the S1 pivot is going to be holding. So we've got a fair amount of support here. Got support 1. Got support 2. Yes, support 3. Now, take a look what's happened on the stochastic. The stochastic has crossed over trigger 1. EMAs haven't yet, but we're going to see if that S1 level holds. Does that S1 level hold? If it holds, we want to see a crossover to the upside with the EMA, and then we want to see a movement to the upper quintile. Okay, so again, it's that dual type of, that dual nature of the markets, where we're looking at 2 instruments for confirmation. Dollar to move down, does it or doesn't it? If it doesn't, okay, fair enough. If it does, is the euro getting its push to the upside? So we want to see, are we going to cross over here? Are we going to go back into zone 1? We've got a very strong looking trend on the weekly, a series of higher troughs followed by higher peaks, a ledge that's been built around that 110 level. Can it break out to the upside? And I think that if we can just get above that 110 and hold above it for a fair amount of time, the second half of this year, I think 115 comes into play. Why 115? Because the relative strength of the ECB monetary policy versus the Fed policy. So we want to keep an eye on that. Very important pair to look at this week is cable. We've got the Bank of England probably going to hike by 25 basis points on Thursday. Is that a Bollinger Band from Clarence? Yes, I'll take you through the settings, Clarence. Let's do a top-down analysis of cable, and I'll take you through the settings of the zones. So we've got the head and shoulders of the dollar, but take a look at the cable at pound. It's breaking out of a rectangle sideways. The RSI is between 50 and 80. It's sailing along, smooth sailing, so to speak. All right, let's go through to the daily chart. All right, Clarence, take a look at. We've got two Bollinger Bands. The red Bollinger is your standard 20 and 2. That's your standard 20 and 2. I've taken out the average line. We don't want to see the average line. Okay, the blue Bollingers, I've got as 20 and 0.75. Again, no average line because I only want 3 zones. So it's 2 Bollinger Bands. Does that answer your question? Just let me know. I'll go through all the settings. The RSI that I use is slightly different as well. I use 10 periods, and I calculate it off of the median, not off of the close. And that just gives a little bit of a smoother. And then I use 20 and 80 as the overbought, oversold levels. Okay. And let's just go through to the hourly chart here and take a look what's happening here. This is looking very interesting. We've got the Bank of England on Thursday. What's happening with cable? It's starting to show a trigger 1. Trigger 2, does this guarantee success? No. That's why we use stop losses. That's why we use risk management. But if we can get the stochastic up to that upper, if we can get the stochastic to the upper quintile and hold, okay, so sort of hold this area like that, that's where the magic happens. Okay. See here? Holds the area here. That's where the magic happens. All right. So it's looking very, very interesting indeed. I want to do gold as well. Let's take a look at gold and then perhaps the DAX just to end off with. Let's just take a look at gold. Again, we want to do that top-down analysis. So let's go through to XAU USD. I'm just going to click through these errors. My system uploaded, and since then I'm getting these on the. This is a demo on the live account. There's no errors. Let's take a look here. All right, so gold is holding nicely above 2,000. There is resistance between 2,000 and 2,100. That resistance is fairly robust. So you can see that going back to 2020, it attacked it, it failed. Coming back to 2022, it attacked it and failed. We're right there now. However, I'm going to just do a slightly different analysis here. What I want to show you guys is the RSI. Take a look. The RSI to me, its position relative to 50 makes a world of difference. When we hit, let me get an arrow here. When we hit the 2000 level back in 2020, the RSI was overbought, and then it subsequently fell below 50 before it sort of stabilized and made another crack. But you can see it was overbought, and then it dropped quite heavily. The second time, overbought, and then it fell below 50. Okay, we're not overbought now. We're not overbought now, and in fact, it's more stable. The RSI is more stable in terms of where it was back in 2020, back in 22. It's now moving quite nicely along 50 and 80. I think that in itself is important, and as long as we hold above 50, as long as we hold below 80, this resistance is very much in the crosshairs. And why do I say that? Because go back to the first link in our chain. What was the first link in our chain? It was the dollar. If that dollar completes that topping pattern, it's going to be a tailwind for gold. This 2,000 to 2,100 level is looking very doable in terms of price action. So just keep an eye on that RSI. Let's just take a movement down to the daily chart. All right, so it's trying to stay in zone 1, so it's got to do a little bit more work here. There's no doubt that 2,000 level is adding some sort of pressure, but again, I like the RSI. The RSI here suggests to me that there is underlying positive momentum, and I think that 2,000, 2,100 is going to be attacked again. I wonder if it's going to fall. I think as long as the daily chart holds above 50, as long as we hold in zone 1, it's going to be very interesting. Go back to the US dollar chart, because it's a dual analysis here. Okay, so the dollar will have to be coming down. The dollar will have to be coming down in zone 3. Okay, let's just take a look and see what's happening here. And you can see the dollar is starting to show signs of crossover. Okay, probably got to wait another hour just to get confirmation there. Let's go through to the hourly chart on gold, which we haven't looked at. All right, there is a crossover over here, and there is a crossover here, but I think you can see that the momentum is flat. So the gold momentum is not really cooperating at the moment, is it? It's in no man's land. It's near 50. We really needed to get to the upper quintile. If we can get to the upper quintile, then potentially we can get some angle and separation over here on the EMAs. Again, keep an eye on that dollar. That to me is the first point of analysis. Then we drift to the next point of analysis. All right, let's do one more, just cognizant of time here. Let's go through to the DAX and take a look what the risk markets are looking like. It's just gone 1 minute past the hour, so the cash market has effectively opened. Let's just do a quick analysis and see what's happening on the risk side of the markets. I am a big fan of the DAX chart. I really like the way that this has charted with a series of higher troughs, higher peaks. Again, I like the way that the RSI is just moving along between 50 and 80. It's oscillating on the bullish side of 50. And I like last week's price action. Take a look at last week's price action. You've got a dragonfly doji. You've got price that was pushed down to the low point. At the low point, the bears lose control, bulls take over and push price right back up. And in fact, you've got 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks of buying tails here. Go through to the daily. We're in zone 1. We're getting a nice squeeze. Something's about to happen. We spoke about the squeeze yesterday. So, and you can find our videos on our YouTube channel. It does look as if there is something about to happen here. What we need, though, is a little bit of cooperation from the short-term market participants. What we've got right now is drift. We've got drift. You can see we're in no man's land. Okay, so we've got to get some sort of angle and separation. Ideally to the upside. Ideally to the upside. So at the moment, we're a little bit neutral on the DAX. Hasn't really opened up with any sort of fireworks. We'll have to keep an eye on that. All right, let's leave it at that. If there are any questions, please go ahead and type those in. Any questions, go ahead and type those in. And hey, Corbus, please can you send me an email? I'll chase up. I don't know what the issue is. I'll chase that up for you, if you don't mind. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to do a slightly shorter morning market review, and then we'll do a crypto minute. So please join me for tomorrow. Thank you guys for signing in today. Have a really good day, a good evening, and we shall chat again tomorrow morning. Thanks very much.